Hi, I'm Chris,
I'm Ashley.
and we are marriage surviving sexual addiction and infidelity. This is a very long overdue video. Uh, this is my piece. Ashley talked about resentment, things that she feels and how she responds to it. We recorded mine, uploaded, didn't work, and life got crazy. So, our apologies. I'm gonna talk about two forms of resentment. Uh, First one I'm gonna talk about is the resentment that was taking place as I was an addict. And I mean, to clarify, I considered myself an addict still, and will always consider myself an addict. And that's how I kind of stay on guard, recognize that it doesn't just go away, and I don't reach a point where I no longer have to worry. But at a time when I was acting out thoroughly, often, and certainly before everything came to light. Um, I think obviously with any marriage, there's going to be little things that bug you or irritate you, or little things that come up that you might get bothered about. For me, when I was acting out on things, I didn't realize just how bad some of those little minor things um, would kind of eat at me. And because I was never a communicator, I wouldn't communicate my thoughts, and then that would just allow things to build and build, and no more so than in that false idea, that false sense of what the intimate relationship was meant to be. Uh, Being an addict of pornography, I had no clue really on what true intimacy was, and so I developed these expectations or these thoughts, or and be really angry or disappointed when things didn't happen that way, or worse yet, I naturally would want to help out my wife around the house and do things, dishes or things like that, but the addict part would kick in. I would never do dishes with the thought of, okay, because I did dishes, I'm entitled to something. But because of the addiction, and this idea would start to creep into my head afterwards of, well, I did that, so how come I'm not being repaid? And then that would build and resent. So definitely recognize that as an addict who's acting out, you're going to have these emotions that are heightened, and it's going to create a lot of issues. It certainly did with us before we, actually recognized and understood that, or really the lies came to light. So it's been really eye-opening to recognize and see that, which has helped develop communication on my part, being able to talk about things, being able to share and open up, and that's been huge. But now,
That resentment that he had for me is what fueled justification.
yeah, you always kind of, I think it's because you look for an excuse, or you look for a reason to think maybe what I'm doing is not so bad, or maybe I'm entitled to something, or more than that, I think sometimes an addict, at least for myself, I recognize what I was doing was wrong, but it's, you almost want to focus on any kind of a positive you ever do to downplay how horrible your actions are. So it's terrible, and it stems from pornography and how it alters your mind. Um, but those feelings, resentment, I guess, doesn't go away, and I kind of feel like resentment's the wrong word for what I want to talk about now. Um, but it's the word I'll use. Um, I thought the question comes up a lot of like, how do you get past when there's triggers or things that come up, or um, you know we're over 4 years now into recovery, and working and rebuilding our marriage from the ground up. And I think sometimes people still have that thought of like, you know, if Ashley's heard about something, if there's a trigger, a thought, people sometimes have that thought of like, oh, so you're not over it, as if that goes away. Okay, me as an addict, I will always be an addict. As somebody who's gone through the worst pain, trauma you can, trauma doesn't just go away. I mean, it gets better, and you learn to cope with it and handle it in different ways, but it doesn't just go away. So, if you are the spouse of an addict and you're feeling pain or you're not okay right now, and it's been weeks, months, years of things being great, know that that's okay. And if you're the addict, know that it's okay for your spouse to not be okay. And that has certainly evolved for me. In the very beginning, it was hard for me to handle. I had this whole thought process of, okay, everything's out. Okay, you know everything. I'm working on it. I've got sobriety. We're healing. So why are you bringing this up? Like let's move past that. We're past that. That's in the past. And counseling has been instrumental, and communication has been instrumental, because it's helped me learn to put myself in her shoes and understand how exactly would I feel. How would I feel if I were her? How would I feel if we go to the swimming pool and my mind's wondering, is she seeing these people dressed like this, and what's he thinking? Or a commercial comes on, or anything else. Like, those are normal reactions. And so learning to put myself in her shoes was very instrumental in that. And again, counseling helped to recognize, and we saw several counselors, and I think it was at the time that I was seeing a female counselor, because I think that helped me develop more of that empathy from the female perspective, as opposed to a male. They kind of just
we saw both.
Yeah, I mean,
we
like I said,
both.
we saw several counselors, and I think that's when it really helped me the most, was at that point. So it certainly evolves.
What about when, because like people ask all the time the question of, well, if they ask, I'm trying to word this right. If they ask the question of, well, you're not letting me get over it. You're not letting me, you don't have any faith in me. You don't have any of this. And I once had somebody say, like, to me, made it very abundantly clear that if I am triggered or hurt by my husband, then I'm not putting faith in him, and he's feeling that, so then he's going to go mess up. Like, that's something that has been said. What are your thoughts on that? Because I feel like that comes up a lot.
Yeah, I hear that a lot, and I felt that in the very beginning. I can specifically, like right now, I can specifically remember a time where, as sobriety, you have your ups and your downs as you're starting and working through it. I remember being 5 weeks sober, and there being some big triggers coming up, and so some just questions being asked, like, how are you doing in your recovery? What kind of things are you working on? Like, not, did you act out? Did you mess up? What have you looked at? It's just questions that are helpful to me. What are you working on? What kind of things are you reading? How can I help you? And I remember getting so angry and saying, this, I can't even feel good about being 5 weeks sober. Now I can look back at that and realize how ridiculous a statement that is. When I think about everything that I've put her through, and I'm supposed to, I don't know, be getting a clap on the back or a banner saying congratulations on 5 weeks. Like, that shouldn't be what it is. So that was a terrible reaction on my part. So for people that are feeling that, first of all, as an addict, again, put yourself in your spouse's shoes. Wonder what's she asking you? You know, or he, what's being asked? Why is that coming up? Why is your spouse feeling that emotion? And talk about it calmly, address it. That's, again, very beginning, terrible at it. There's probably still moments 4 years in where I might start off in a bad way or handle it bad, and then recognize, okay, did I put myself in Ashley's shoes? Did I think about why she's asking this? Did I think about what caused this? And then go from there and build upon that. Does that cover that?
Yeah, I think it just comes from the trauma response for either one of us, the fight, flight, or freeze kind of a thing. Like if he's having a bad week at work and all that stuff is piled up, and here I come in with a trigger or trauma, sometimes all of these gradual tools that he's gained along the way to where he handles me really empathetically now, still has days where it's, it's that we're both responding in a trauma response where it turns into a fight and a wall goes up and all those kinds of things. So it's not always perfect, but
yeah,
he's going to lead into the better part now.
It can depend on things. I mean, are you tired? Are you stressed by work and other things? Kids keeping you up at night? Kids not listening? All these things that create these stresses, and so you have to watch for those. Just like I've learned to recognize I have to watch for different stresses and how my mood is and everything else for managing the addiction part. I also have to do that for how I respond to different things. And so I think just working on that and getting better in that every day, and all things come from communication. It seems silly to call it practice, but I mean that's what it is. As we talk about it more and as we work through it more, and it's funny because if I sit here and think I'm not doing well at it, or I'm reacting poorly to how Ashley might react to things, I bring up all the time because it helps me in my recovery of when I'm feeling triggered sexually. And that may be the case for a lot of other addicts, or maybe you have your support person outside of the marriage that you go to when you're feeling triggered. For me, it's Ashley because that's been the best for me, because I don't open up and I don't want to share with others, and because being able to share with Ashley has been what's helped me. So all these times that I'm expressing to her that I'm feeling triggered about different things and how well she reacts to it, with that empathy, with compassion, with putting herself in my shoes, times where she said, I'm really sorry that this is something you've dealt with your entire life. Or that's really unfair that's been a struggle for your life and how it's affected so much in your life. So that's one of those practice things, and one of those you study things, and I've been able to study how she reacts to me and realize that's probably how she'd like for me to react to her. So I'd say really study and learn to understand how your spouse would like you to react to it. Ask her, okay, when you're triggered by what I'm doing, what kind of a response are you hoping for? What helps you in your healing? How can I help? Because as a guy, I want to fix things, and I guess if I can't fix it immediately, I want to sweep it away. And so understanding that just being there with her in it and working through it, I guess that's just the best advice I have. And it unfortunately comes with time, and it comes with understanding that I believe we won't reach a point where it's never brought up or mentioned again, where she's never hurt and where I'm never triggered by a sexual thought. I don't think it's realistic to think that for either one of us, and so we'll work on it for the rest of our lives. I'll be an addict the rest of my life, and Ashley will be the spouse of an addict, and together we'll get through it if we want to work on it. And I that's just the advice I have is work on it. So.
Well, and then I will just end with saying, like, my husband did go through a process. I mean, he went through the process of learning how to respond. And one day, I think I even said that in a fight. One day I came home and it was one of those situations where he was not responding well to my trigger trauma responses. Because it was that, again, we have to talk about this again. And I don't want to deal with this right now, which is understandable. It does get old. But nonetheless, I was triggered and I was in trauma. And I said, listen, you tell me all the time how triggered you are by intimacy and sexual thoughts and things that you desire and want. How is that fair that in return, when I'm triggered by what has happened, that is your response?
Yeah.
And I think from that point on, you know, we both try to put each other in each other's shoes. And the biggest thing that I will say is I have been very blessed and very lucky that my husband continuously tries to do that. He really does. Because as I said in my video, the more that I believe, the more we both try to be considerate and compassionate with one another, the quicker these fights, the emotional roller coaster and all that goes away. But when we're both handling it in a non-compassionate, non-supportive way, the fight sticks around for a long time. So I just want to put it out there because, unfortunately, more often than not, the stories that I get are these ones. It's my husband's so mad at me every time I bring it up. He's so, and sometimes it's my wife, you know, either way, my wife's so mad at me. I never want to say that only husbands are the ones that have this issue, because it's not. But for this sake, many wives have come to me and said, my husband's so mad at me, and he thinks that I'm just beating him over the head, and that I'm shaming him, and that I'm doing this and doing that. And I'm saying, I know it's hard, because I actually have seen that side from him, and when I have legitimately put myself in his shoes, I have felt really sad for him. Like, you know what? I can see why this would be really hard. Nobody wants to live the darkest side of themselves over and over and over again. That would be like somebody bringing up my deepest, darkest flaw and saying it bugs them over and over and over. It's like, well, it bugs him too. Obviously, he doesn't want to be an addict.
Well, but the thing is, it isn't brought up just to bring it up. It isn't brought up to hold something over somebody's head. It isn't brought up in a sense of, I don't know, like you didn't unload the dishwasher. Oh, and you did all these things that hurt me. You know, it isn't like that. And so realizing that it's not like that, like it's brought up because there's pain.
Yeah.
It should, I hope, help. I mean, that's what's helped me understand that. See it from a different way. It's not, you're not being punished. You're not being seen as a lesser person. I mean, that hasn't been my experience. And
this particular circumstance, it 100% involves both of you. I know some addicts think they're only hurting themselves. They're not.
No, heck no.
When they're married, you are absolutely 100% hurting your spouse.
And when you're not, you're married, you're hurting whoever you're going to be.
Yeah.
I mean, it alters your perception on intimacy. It's
a total damaging process.
And relationships of any kind.
Yeah. But I just want to put it out there that it can be done. Because like I said, I've heard the sad story over and over and over again that they're like shutting the spouse up, being like, I'm done. I'm not going to talk about it anymore. If you're going to keep talking about it, we're going to get a divorce and blah, blah, blah. It's too much. That's too hard. Nobody's going to heal from that. I can promise you that if you sit through that uncomfortable yuckiness for a little bit longer and find the ways that you can work together, you can get through those rocky moments, those constant roller coasters, those 3 a.m. conversations. You can get through all of those if you sit with each other in the pain
Yep.
and develop the compassion. You can get through it, but it takes some work. It takes some time. But please don't think that it's impossible, and like thinking my spouse is never going to leave me alone about this. They're always going to hang this over my head.
Yep.
It gets better.
Yeah, it does. You just work. I mean, I've had that thought several times of how do people get through this. Like, it just seems like an impossible task. It seems like it'd be easier to cut ties and each start again. But that's not true. I mean, 4 years in, I realized that's not true.
Yeah. And 4 years in, is this going to be a struggle we always deal with? Yes, it is.
Sure.
And are we always going to have triggers? Sure. But I went from being triggered, 20 times a day to very once in a great while now. It just doesn't happen because we've healed and because we communicated and processed and had compassion and dealt with it. So
don't give up.
Don't give up and work hard and have empathy for your spouse, both spouses.
Have empathy. And I guess, one final thought. Share with each other. If you're having a trigger and you bring it up, it's also helpful sometimes to say, hey, I need to talk to you about this thing that I'm feeling, and here's how maybe you could help me with it. I'm not looking for the fix. I'm not looking for this. I just need you to understand that I'm struggling. I think that's helped me too, is when we've been able to share that with each other. I don't need you to make it better. Just need you to understand I'm having this, and I need a little bit of compassion. So, good luck and keep working. Just keep working.
Thank you.